In the late 1980s, I was playing a concert in Detroit, and backstage was the principal conductor of the New York Philharmonic, Kurt Masur. He had his son, Ken David, who was a trumpeter of about 11 or 12 years old. I met his son as I meet all the young trumpet players, hugged him, gave him a lot of love and respect, talked about playing our instrument, practicing a routine. And Mr. Masur looked at me and he said, "Friend, will you write a piece for the New York Philharmonic?" I started to laugh. I said, "Man, I've never written for a big band. I'm certainly not going to write anything for the New York Philharmonic." I said, "Man, no way in the world I'm going to ever do that." So, because we were Jazz at Lincoln Center on the campus of Lincoln Center, and he was the New York Philharmonic, and of course I would go to their concerts, I would see him on the campus. Every time I saw this man, he would tell me the same thing: "Friend, are you still afraid to write for the New York Philharmonic?" So it got on my nerves. At that time, they had one of the greatest trumpet players ever. Phil Smith was principal trumpet. I always went to hear Phil play big pieces, Mahler 5, pictures at an exhibition, Brandenburg Concerto, anything that had great trumpet. You knew it was going to be great because Phil was great. On my way to see Phil and say, "Man, you sounded good," there he was: "Friend, are you still afraid to write for the New York Philharmonic?" So throughout the 1990s, I determined I would try to figure out how to write for the New York Philharmonic. I had not taken composition classes. How can I write for violins and violas? I know we have it in American lexicon. How can I not write the contemporary music that critics seems to like, but I hate? How can I figure out something that's melodic, that has American objectives? How can I? I wrote a string quartet. I wrote a piece based on some of Stravinsky's music just to be able to sit next to a bassoonist. Guy ended up being one of my greatest friends in the world, Milan Turković, great genius of bassoon. How can I develop the technology? How could I learn to write for big band? How can I learn how to deal with larger forces? I started to develop that vocabulary. By the time we got to the mid or late 90s, I still would see Masur: "Friend, are you still afraid to write for the New York Philharmonic?" Finally, about 1998, I said, "Okay, I think I can write for the New York Philharmonic." He said, "Okay, friend, meet me such and such time." I went to his office. We sat down, and I'm ready to meet with what he would like me to do, what I could do for the New York Philharmonic. I had my notebook of music, which I take to. He looked at me and he said, "Friend, I was a Nazi soldier." Okay, I'd never heard a person say that. So the room was completely silent then. He had my attention. He said, "I had been a member of Hitler Youth." He said, "Of course, if you were in Germany at that time, you would be a member of Hitler Youth." He said, "Why do we not do the things we were trying to do when Leonard Bernstein was here, in the traditions of bringing aspects of American vernacular music to the symphonic orchestra, and why do we have such segregation in your country?" I was not prepared for him to come down that road. So I just looked at him like, "Okay." I said, that's a problem, maestro." He said, "Friend, I will ask you a question. If a man sleeps with his neighbor's wife, in 1 week, everyone in the village knows it has happened, do you think it's possible to kill millions of people and no one know about it?" Everyone knew. Everyone. Friend, you think erroneously that this cannot happen in your country. You're going down that road. I want you to write a piece that will allow us all to be together and to come together. This is more important than you think. I'll give you the New York Philharmonic for an entire evening, write a long piece, ambitious, and it will be right before the turn into the new millennium. It's with a group of pieces that we are commissioning. People have different objectives. This is what I would like you to do. Are you afraid to do this? That's it. No, maestro. I might not be able to do it, but I'm not afraid to do it. With this piece, I had specific challenges. One was the importance of a personal and collective mythology for meaning. That means things that we all agree on. Fundamentals like you have to drink water to survive. You're young, you get older, you get old, and then people talk about you as a memory. The earth is spinning and circling. From those fundamental thoughts, I began to construct the form of the piece. I figured the most fundamental form in American music, and probably in the world, is the blues. So I structured it in the form of a blues that is also the form of our progression through life. The blues has 12 bars. That's Masur right there, calling. He still wants to know if I'm afraid. It's 4 bars of what we call the 1 chord, 4 bars of what we call the 4 chord to the 1 chord, which you will know as an amen cadence. And then the last 4 bars are the 5 chord, the 4 chord, and the 1 chord. So you see it goes 1 chord, then 2 chords, then 3 chords. It goes, now those 3 chords happen to be the first intervals discovered by Pythagoras. And it's also the pentatonic scale of all Eastern music. And it's many other things. So I separated into these 3 sections, and each section of All Rise represents different moments in the progression of experiences that punctuate our lives. It is a personal and communal progression, meaning that we all go through these things with no dispute. So the first 4 movements are, 1, we're born in joy. In most instances, it's some type of joy when we're born. 2, we play. You ever see a group of kids play with a truck as an airplane? A building has hair. The association of things and the element of play. 3, we fall in love the first time, and it's naive. And 4, we get full of ourselves. That's the first 4 movements. We end being full of ourselves. I think I might be the best looking person, the greatest. Damn, everything is going so well. Nothing. Hey, what are people talking about? This is hard. This is easy out here. The second 4 movements are about tribulation and the quest for maturity that comes from the arrogance exhibited in the last of those first 4. A fall from grace of some kind and a begging for forgiveness, save us. That's the 5th movement. The 6th is attempting to come to a realization of what we have done to participate in our downfall. It's called cried, shouted, then sung. Because you cry at first, then you're angry and you curse something out, and then the last thing you can do is, you got to sing about it. That's the 6th movement. Then the 7th movement is when you come to an understanding, the grace that comes with redemption through humility. Now, this is a progression that we all have had to undergo in some way. And when we get to certain ages, perhaps we're still undergoing them. I had my 4th kid, I was 48. I was not married. My father never commented on things morally. He was really a true jazz musician. He called me one day, he said, hey man, I heard about, how old are you? I said, I'm 48. He said, man, sometimes you run out of time to keep learning the same thing. Then he said, man, I want you to check out my new tune I'm writing. That was it. That was his lesson. The 8th movement is in the halls of erudition and scholarship. It's when you are welcomed back into the feeling of joy, into the feeling of grace, Many times you welcome yourself back into that. You can come out of a dark depression and you come back with an understanding, some journey, some arduous thing that you've been through. And that leads us to the last four. And the last four mirror the first four. First is a series of Latin dances that mirrors we're born in joy. Now we're reborn, but now we understand that there are people everywhere with objectives you have. We have a broader understanding. We have the flexibility of tango, the lyricism and the romance that we find in the best of what our Spanish brothers and sisters taught us by way of the Indians and various groups that are joined in different ways in South America. The 10th movement is like the second movement. Whereas in the second movement, we're playing with stuff like we're a little kid. Now we're playing with a train. And that train is taking us from one somewhere to another, who knows where. But we're having a good time. Like the third movement was about young love and inexperience, the 11th movement is the blues. It's about what happens after heartbreak. The high of the orchestra talks to the low. Male and female energy. A certain wisdom that comes with having gone through things that you truly did not want to go through and that you could not control. The beautiful thing about pain is that it is the disciplinary force. It takes you past whatever you're willing to endure to what it's telling you you're going to endure. And when you come out from it, you have another perspective. One that hopefully is less self-centered. The 12th movement is the great I Am. It is a type of Christian mythology placed in the context of Arabic music. I bring the conceptions together. All through All Rise, this is the perspective. Things that you don't think should go together actually are the same thing. When you're a musician, you play with many musicians from different cultures, you learn that one beat, you can go around the world with that beat. That's what we used to sing on when I was growing up in New Orleans. A lot of Middle Eastern music, African music, South American music. You always say, what are y'all playing?